Fear of the unknown has always been one of the most powerful and unsettling emotions experienced by human beings. It is an instinctive feeling that has existed since the earliest days of humanity, when survival depended on being alert to threats that could not be seen or understood. The unknown does not always need a physical form to terrify. Often it is the very absence of clarity, the inability to explain what lies ahead, that fills the mind with dread. When people find themselves in situations where they cannot predict what will happen, their imaginations become their worst enemy. Every sound, every shadow, every sudden change in the environment can be magnified by the fear that something unseen is lurking nearby. This uncertainty makes fear of the unknown unique compared to other kinds of fear, because it is not limited to what exists, but also to what might exist. When people are placed in complete darkness, where their eyes are no longer useful, the sense of vulnerability grows immediately. The human mind begins to create shapes and movements out of nothing, imagining threats in the empty space around. A whisper in such a setting becomes more than just a sound. It transforms into evidence of an unseen presence, something that cannot be identified or confronted directly. The fear here is not just of the whisper itself, but of what could be behind it. That unseen possibility becomes terrifying because the unknown has no boundaries, no limits, and no certainty. A monster, a ghost, or a person can be confronted when identified, but when nothing is clear, the human mind spirals into endless possibilities, each one darker and more frightening than the last. Psychologists often describe fear of the unknown as a primal instinct rooted in survival. In the wild, not knowing whether a noise in the bushes was caused by the wind or by a predator meant the difference between life and death. Even though modern life has removed many of those ancient dangers, the instinct has remained deeply embedded within us. That is why unexplained events or mysterious environments still produce such strong emotional reactions. The whisper in the dark is terrifying precisely because it does not reveal its source. The mind immediately goes to the worst explanation possible, imagining unseen creatures, spirits, or hostile humans hiding in the shadows. This uncontrollable leap to the darkest interpretation shows how fear of the unknown dominates logic and reason. This fear is powerful because it is formless. It does not require evidence to exist. People can walk alone in a silent street at night and feel their heartbeat rise simply because of what might be around the corner. A child lying in bed at night may imagine monsters hiding under the bed or in the closet, though the room is empty. Adults, too, are not free from such anxieties. When something cannot be explained, fear takes control regardless of age. The darkness is frightening not because it contains specific threats, but because it hides everything, forcing the imagination to take over. Fear of the unknown thrives in such spaces where the boundaries between reality and imagination are blurred. Another reason this fear is so powerful is because it is uncontrollable. A person cannot easily suppress thoughts about what might be hiding in the shadows. The whisper in the dark does not let the listener rest. It opens doors in the mind that cannot easily be closed. The more one tries to rationalize, the more the whisper grows into something unexplainable. This cycle of thought intensifies the fear, making the unknown even more frightening than a visible threat would have been. When you see a danger, you can fight or escape. When you cannot see it, you are left frozen, powerless, and vulnerable to your own imagination. Fear of the unknown also connects deeply with the human tendency to seek explanations. People like to understand, to categorize, and to know the reason behind things. When something resists explanation, it becomes disturbing. A sound in the night with no clear source, a shadow that seems to move on its own, or an object that is not where it was before. All of these create unease because they cannot be logically explained. In that moment, the whisper in the dark embodies this idea perfectly. A voice without a body, a sound without a speaker, forces the mind into panic. The lack of explanation makes the fear unbearable, because there is no way to predict what will happen next or why it is happening in the first place. This fear also connects with isolation. When someone is alone and experiences the unknown, the fear multiplies. The absence of another person to confirm or deny what is being experienced makes it even more intense. In darkness, when a whisper is heard, the person alone has no one to rely on for reassurance. The feeling of being alone with the unknown is one of the deepest human terrors. Even if the whisper turns out to be harmless, in the moment it represents a force beyond comprehension, and facing it alone makes the fear almost overwhelming. Stories and legends across cultures have always used fear of the unknown as a foundation for their horror. Ghost stories, supernatural myths, and tales of spirits or curses are frightening because they build on what cannot be seen or understood. The unknown element makes them believable because people are already primed to be afraid of what they cannot explain. The whisper in the dark follows this same path, becoming a symbol of uncertainty and the terror that comes with it. It shows how a simple, quiet sound can awaken something ancient within us, the survival instinct that tells us to run even when there may be nothing to run from. Even science, while explaining many mysteries, has not erased this fear. The universe itself remains largely unknown, and people often feel small and powerless when they think about what lies beyond their understanding. In daily life, whenever the unknown intrudes through a sudden unexplained noise, a figure glimpsed in the corner of the eye, or a voice heard in the dark, fear takes hold instantly. This is not a fear that can be completely overcome because it is rooted in human nature itself. The haunting whisper in silence is one of the most chilling experiences a person can imagine because silence is usually associated with calmness and rest, but when it is broken by a whisper, the comfort of quiet is transformed into a setting of fear and unease. A whisper carries a special kind of power because it is soft, unclear, and often suggests secrecy. Unlike a loud voice that can be understood immediately, a whisper forces the listener to strain their ears, to wonder if they truly heard something or if it was just their imagination. This uncertainty is what makes it haunting, because it leaves the listener trapped between belief and doubt, between reality and illusion. A whisper does not just communicate words, it communicates presence, and when that presence cannot be seen, the whisper becomes something terrifying. The silence of night is the perfect background for such an unsettling sound. When the world is asleep and no one is moving, silence becomes heavy, almost pressing against the ears. Every sound is magnified, and even the faintest noise seems louder than it should be. A whisper at such a moment cuts through the silence like a knife. It does not need to be clear or loud. The very act of breaking the silence with something faint and intimate makes the atmosphere frightening. People are used to whispers being close, almost against the ear, so when a whisper is heard in the dark without a visible source, the listener feels as if something unseen is near, too near, and this closeness is what makes the experience unbearable. What makes a whisper more haunting than any other sound is its tone. It is quiet enough to hide meaning, yet sharp enough to stir suspicion. When words are not fully understood, the mind begins to fill in the gaps. The human brain hates unfinished patterns, and so it invents possibilities. A simple, unclear sound can turn into threatening words in the imagination of the listener. The whisper in silence could be saying one thing, but the fear inside interprets it as something far darker. The power of the whisper lies not only in what is heard, but also in what is imagined. Whispers are also tied closely to secrecy and hidden intentions. People whisper when they do not want to be heard by others, when they share secrets, or when they conspire in the dark. This cultural association makes whispers in the dark especially disturbing. If someone hears a whisper when they are supposed to be alone, the natural reaction is to think that someone is hiding, watching, or planning something sinister. The silence makes it worse, because in silence there is no distraction, no background noise to explain away the whisper. In such moments, the whisper feels like a direct message meant only for the listener, a chilling thought that makes the skin crawl. There is also an intimate quality to whispers, and this intimacy becomes terrifying in the wrong setting. Whispers are usually exchanged between people who are close, friends sharing secrets, lovers speaking softly, or family members calming a child. But when that intimacy is twisted into an encounter with the unknown, it feels invasive. A whisper in the silence of an empty room feels as if something unseen is leaning close, speaking directly into the ear, even though no one is there. That imagined nearness is one of the reasons a haunting whisper has the ability to unsettle the deepest parts of the human mind. Silence itself plays a huge role in creating the haunting effect. In silence, every sense is sharpened. The absence of sound makes the ear desperate to catch even the smallest vibration. When the ear finally detects a whisper, it feels unnatural, almost like an interruption of something sacred. Silence is not merely the absence of noise, it is also a shield of comfort, and when it is broken by a faint voice, the shield is shattered. The listener feels exposed, vulnerable, and unsure of what will happen next. Whispers in silence also bring with them the suggestion of haunting, because many ghost stories and supernatural legends describe spirits that speak in whispers. The faint voice in the dark has become a symbol of otherworldly presence, and hearing it where none should exist immediately makes the imagination connect it to something beyond human. A whisper without a body to create it is terrifying because it suggests a being that does not follow the normal rules of life. The thought that a ghost, a spirit, or some unknown entity could be speaking in such a soft and deliberate way makes the silence heavier, as though the atmosphere itself is charged with a hidden presence. The psychological effect of a haunting whisper is powerful. When people hear something faint in silence, they often question their own senses. Did they really hear it? Was it just the wind, the creak of a house, or the mind playing tricks? This uncertainty creates mental chaos, where the brain cannot trust its own perception. Once the doubt is planted, every new sound becomes suspicious. Every corner of the room becomes threatening, and every shadow seems alive. The whisper has done its work not only through sound, but by creating an atmosphere where silence is no longer peaceful, but oppressive and suffocating. Even in literature and cinema, the whisper in silence is used to create suspense. Directors often use quiet moments to build tension, only to break them with a faint whisper that terrifies the audience. This technique works because it mirrors the primal fear of hearing something that should not be there. The quiet builds expectation, and when a whisper finally comes, it shocks the senses in a way no loud sound could. The sudden softness is more jarring than a scream, because it forces the audience to lean in, to listen, to fear what might come next. Whispers also carry the suggestion of warning. In many stories, whispers are not simply random sounds, but messages, sometimes threats, sometimes calls for help, sometimes commands. In silence, when a whisper seems to speak, The listener cannot know whether it is friendly or hostile. This ambiguity deepens the haunting nature of the experience. If the whisper is saying something dangerous, it means the listener is being targeted. If it is asking for help, it suggests a trapped or lost spirit. In either case, the listener is pulled into a situation beyond their control. The haunting quality of the whisper comes from this tension, the inability to decide whether it is safe or deadly, real or imagined. Darkness as a hidden danger has always been one of the deepest sources of human fear because it removes the ability to see and understand the environment. When light disappears, the world transforms into something unfamiliar, even if the place is well known. A familiar room, a hallway, or a street can suddenly feel threatening when darkness covers it, because the eyes, which are the main source of security, can no longer confirm what is real. In darkness, every detail is hidden, and what cannot be seen is immediately replaced by imagination. The mind begins to fill the gaps with possibilities, most of them frightening. This is why darkness is not just the absence of light. It becomes a setting where hidden dangers feel alive, where anything could be waiting unseen. The connection between danger and darkness is not accidental, but built into human history. Early humans lived in a world where night was a time of predators and unknown threats. With no artificial light, the dark was filled with animals, enemies, and dangers that could not be spotted until it was too late. This survival instinct remains part of human nature even today. Although people live in safe homes and cities, the ancient association between darkness and danger still lingers in the subconscious. A person walking in a dark alley feels fear even if the place is empty, because the brain remembers that darkness means vulnerability. The hidden danger is not always real, but the possibility of it is enough to make the heart race and the body tense. Darkness removes the sense of certainty. During the day, the eyes confirm every movement and object, providing reassurance. At night, however, shapes blur, shadows distort, and details disappear. What might be a harmless chair in the corner could look like a crouching figure. A tree outside a window may seem like a hand reaching in. This distortion of reality adds to the fear, because the mind is left guessing at what is real and what is not. In such a state, the idea of hidden danger grows stronger. If the eyes cannot be trusted, then anything could be hiding just beyond sight. This constant guessing game feeds the fear that something is present, watching, or waiting. The sounds that accompany darkness make the hidden danger even more intense. In silence, a creak, a rustle, or a faint thump becomes magnified. Without vision to explain the sound, the mind assumes the worst. Was it the wind, the settling of the house, or footsteps approaching? Every noise becomes a possible threat. Darkness does not just hide shapes, it hides causes, leaving the listener unsure of what created the sound. This uncertainty transforms ordinary noises into frightening ones, making the hidden danger feel close, even if nothing is there. Darkness also has a psychological effect that makes people feel exposed. During the day, the ability to see gives a sense of control. At night, when darkness takes away that control, the sense of vulnerability grows. Even if someone is safe inside their home, the lack of light makes them feel unprotected. The hidden danger is not just about what could be lurking outside, but also about the helplessness that comes with not knowing. This helplessness is a danger in itself, because it creates panic and makes rational thought difficult. People may run, freeze, or imagine threats that are not real simply because darkness convinces them that something is wrong. Cultural stories and myths often describe darkness as a place where danger hides. Spirits, monsters, and creatures of the night are said to emerge when the sun sets. These tales pass down the idea that night is when the boundaries between the natural and supernatural blur, and this adds to the fear of darkness. A child who grows up hearing about ghosts in the dark carries that association into adulthood, even if they no longer believe in such stories. The hidden danger in darkness does not need to be proven. It is already deeply planted in the mind through culture, tradition, and instinct. Darkness can also distort time and space, making the fear of hidden danger worse. In darkness, people lose their sense of direction. A hallway feels longer, a room feels larger, and distances seem uncertain. The inability to measure space accurately makes every step suspicious. People may feel that someone is following them, even if they are alone. In extreme darkness, the feeling of being surrounded by unseen presences can become overwhelming. The mind creates company where none exists because it cannot accept the emptiness of the dark. These imagined figures become part of the hidden danger, making darkness feel populated by threats. Another reason darkness feels dangerous is because it removes communication. In daylight, people rely not only on vision, but also on the comfort of seeing others around them. In darkness, even if others are present, their faces and expressions cannot be read. This makes it harder to judge safety. A friend standing in the shadows could look like a stranger, and a stranger could blend into the environment unnoticed. This lack of recognition adds to the sense of danger, because in darkness no one can be fully trusted. The hidden danger is not only in the environment, but also in the possibility that those around cannot be identified. The fear of darkness often becomes strongest in solitude. Being alone in a dark room creates a sense of isolation that magnifies every imagined danger. When there is no one to confirm that everything is safe, the mind creates its own threats. Darkness feeds loneliness, and loneliness feeds fear. Together, they create an atmosphere where hidden danger feels unavoidable. Even the smallest movement of air or the faintest sound can feel like proof that something is there. Whispers, shadows, and sudden chills in darkness all become signs of danger. Whether it is the unknown voice, the shifting outline of an object, or the sudden feeling of being touched by cold air, the darkness amplifies everything. Each of these signs might have a natural explanation, but in darkness, they gain supernatural weight. The hidden danger does not need to reveal itself fully. It is enough for the darkness to suggest its presence. That suggestion is often more frightening than actual confrontation, because it leaves the mind restless, searching for answers that never come.